Welcome to Stetson Law Live. Using Ustream's chat feature, you can have your questions answered in real time. Your host for today's program, Joann Grages Burnett. And her special guest, Professor Jeffrey Minneti. And Director of Bar Preparation Services, Michael Pierce. Our topic for today, getting ready for law school. And now, here's Joann Grages Burnett.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Getting Ready for Law School. My name is Joann Grages Burnett and I'm the Associate Director of Career Development here at Stetson Law. And I am pleased to be today's host and moderator. Today we are joined by Professor Jeff Minneti, Director of Academic Success, and Mike Pierce, Director of Bar Preparation Services. Both of these gentlemen are going to be answering your questions today. And today is about you. This is your time. We want to help you answer the questions you have about getting ready for law school. So feel free to type in your questions. We're going to get started with a few that I have prepared, but this is about you. So whatever questions you have, get them ready. In just a second, I'm going to ask my guests to introduce themselves, but first I'll tell you a little bit about me. I am an alumna of the College of Law, and as I mentioned, I'm proud to be a member of the Career Development team. The Career Development Office is here for you. Once you get here, we're going to want you plugged into our office pretty quickly. We have a curriculum called the Career Development Toolkit, which you'll become familiar with once you arrive. We also offer a number of services to students, including group and individual student appointments. We work with you to develop a strategy for getting that job after law school, and we have a lot of fun in the process. We offer workshops, we partner with a lot of our student organizations here on campus, and we make sure that you are prepared to enter the legal market. So that's enough about us for now. We'll talk a little bit more later. But first, I'd like to turn it over to Professor Minneti to introduce yourself.
Sure. So I'm a graduate of Cumberland School of Law in Birmingham, Alabama. Prior to that, I attended the University of South Florida here in Tampa and graduated there. My path to law school is a little bit non-traditional. I served as an elementary and middle school teacher for several years before going to law school. And then after law school, following the judicial clerkship, was eager to get back into teaching. I began my work here at the College of Law about 12 years ago, first with legal research and writing, and then the dean asked that I take over something called academic support, academic success. And at the time, Joann, there wasn't much going on here in that area. I was a director of a program of one, and over time found ways to really use the resources the College of Law has to help students in a couple of capacities. The first was helping students such as yourself transition into law school, making sure that you understood the expectations that would be applied to you, making sure you also understand the kind of skills that you needed to have to be successful in your first couple of semesters here. Toward that vein, I helped with some orientations, both prior to the start of law school and at the very beginning of law school, and then offer workshops to students during their first semester that help them understand the kinds of exams they're likely to face and the kind of preparation that students need to take care of during the course of the first semester. In addition to that, the College of Law has some policies that kick in if students do not perform well academically. So me and the team that I work with provide support to students who are struggling academically. We help them acquire the skills that they need to do well in their courses. And it's a terrific job. One of the things I have that I like the best about my job is that I get to help students be successful here. I have some educational background and lots of experience that I love to invest in getting to know you and helping you make the most of your experience here at Stetson.
Wonderful. And the resources that the Academic Success Program provides cannot be overstated. It's really a very comprehensive program, and we look forward to talking a little bit more about it.
Yep.
Mr. Pierce, you're up. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Fantastic. So like Joann, I am a graduate of Stetson. I graduated in 2011. I took the bar here in Florida and then practiced for a bit. I'm also barred in Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from originally. My wife and I live in Tampa Bay, and we like to call this home. I came back to Stetson after a couple of years in practice to head up a nonprofit organization run by our Elder Law Center. So I got to travel throughout the state and talk to seniors about frauds and scams and how to manage their money more effectively. And then after that grant funding ran out, I was available and looking for an opportunity, and I've had a blast working with Professor Minneti in the Academic Success Center. So my title is Director of Bar Preparation Services, and that really goes in tandem and hand in hand with the types of programs that Professor Minneti has spoken about a little bit. So like academic support, we do types of workshops and kind of orientation speaking and one-on-one meetings throughout your time here in law school. But my main focus is getting you past that bar exam, and so I do all that I can in your 3 years here at school, and then I partner with you really close in that summer or fall after you graduate to make sure you pass that thing on your first attempt. The bar exam is the most fun you never want to have twice, and so I make sure that you only have to take it one time. We get you prepared in a way that really no other school is doing, and that's based solely on the relationships that we get to form with you guys. So I look forward to meeting you very soon.
Wonderful. Well, let's get started with some questions. And Professor Minneti, I'll start with you. And as many of our viewers are probably wondering, now is the time where they're getting into the summer before law school. What sort of things should our viewers be doing in getting prepared to come to law school in the fall?
Yeah, so I think a big part of it is just simply take some time away. You're probably seniors in college or completing other graduate programs at this point. So this summer, spend some time away, either vacationing, doing things that you enjoy, free your mind to the extent that you can. Because when you get here in the fall, you're going to be in a rigorous educational program, one that demands 55, 60 hours a week of your attention for the 13 weeks of the semester. So I really want you to come ready to immerse yourself and be the best version of yourself when you arrive here on campus in the fall. So a big part of your summer should simply be take some time away. Now, if you're looking to develop some of the skills that you're going to need for that first semester, I invite you to pay close attention to our pre-orientation program. You'll be learning more about that in June, where you'll find that we have uploaded a variety of resources for you that will teach you the critical skills associated with law school. Critically reading cases and other legal material. We'll cover the basics of legal argument and what it means to do legal analysis, just getting into the law itself and understanding the different kinds of patterns that the law presents. Our pre-orientation program will equip you with some of that information. In addition to that, I would really urge you to focus on your own reading comprehension. Really, much of the law school experience revolves around your ability to not just understand the words on the page, but to be able to use that information to apply it to new and novel situations. So whether you're reading the New York Times op-ed page or a blog that you follow closely, spend the time this summer to dig into that text. Consider carefully the author's premise associated with the text. Think about how you might question the author on the premise that he's written. Is there sufficient support for that premise? Begin to look between the lines, underneath the lines, around the lines presented in the text, and you'll begin to do the kind of reading that you'll need to do when you get into law school. On a more practical side, I would also strongly urge you to think about the move that you're going to make here to the Gulfport St. Pete area. If there are physician appointments that you need to make, if there are details in your life, try to resolve as many of those as possible so that when you get here in the fall, law school can be your number one priority. So do what you have to this summer to get yourself into that position.
Very good advice. Very good advice. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
I think from my standpoint on the bar prep side of things, you are going to have a lot to kind of acclimate yourself to at law school, but don't forget why you're coming here. You have a reason why you want to be an attorney or why you want to come to law school. So don't lose that. Bring that with you. Bring that excitement here, because that's what's going to make the difference between success and failure for you here. If you can stay true to that reason why you're here, I think you're the better student for it. So if you haven't thought about that, if you haven't thought about what you're going to do with this license or what you want to get out of every class that you attend, spend time thinking about that. Talk to people that you know that have been to law school. Talk to folks who have maybe not are in the same age group as you, who have been there before or are thinking about going there as well. Have conversations and do some of that reflection now, because once class starts, that reflection time kind of, as Professor Minneti said, goes away a little bit with the demands of class. So spend time thinking about you and why you're coming here, and that'll help motivate you through your first year.
Can I add something there?
Please.
And that is with regard to the bar application. One of the things we talk with students about in the summer before coming to school is to think about the fact that they intend to sit for a bar exam. That's going to require completion of a bar application. And in Florida, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's about 72 pages of application, 28 questions, much of which requires very specific documentation about your previous employment history, your previous addresses. So you might think in this summer before you transition to Gulfport about collecting information, perhaps from your home, from your parents, about your employment history specifically, the educational institutions you've attended, and then physical addresses where you've lived, down to the zip code and the street address, right? All that information is going to be important for you as you set about applying for that Florida Board of Bar Examiners application or any other state that you happen to sit for. Collecting the information, having that available to you, I think would be really helpful as you start the fall semester. Have I missed anything, Mike, there?
The only thing I would touch on is that even if you plan to return to another state after attending law school here, it's a really good idea to apply for the Florida bar, and I'll tell you a little bit why. Our dean has been very generous, and I'm assuming that he's going to continue to be very generous, in that if you file your bar application as a 1L student before a January deadline, it is free to you. There's no cost. The good news for you, the benefit that you get from that, is that it starts a character and fitness determination for you that normally takes about 6 to 9 months to complete. And the earlier you get that done, it frees you up to do so many different things here at school. You can be in a clinic or internship that requires you to be cleared by the Florida Board of Bar Examiners. And it just opens a bunch of doors for you here. And again, free to you. So even if you plan to return to another state, get those kinds of documents together and get that application stuff started. You can find a bunch of information on the Florida Board of Bar Examiners website. If you just Google that, or you go to floridabarexam.org, they're going to walk you through the whole process and it'll give you a good idea of what you need to file that application. But come in ready to do that because it's going to cut the time that you need to be cleared character and fitness wise.
I agree. I think that's really important to sort of gather those documents, get prepared to submit that application in a timely fashion. The campus is united in our advice that is a really, really good thing to do when you're a first year. And I'll add in a career development note, as you're sort of ending one chapter of your life and beginning another chapter in law school, I think it's important to remember the people that sort of helped you along the way. The professors that might have written you a letter of recommendation to come into law school, people that you've been working with, friends, colleagues. I think it's important to show a little appreciation for helping, for their help in helping you get to law school. You did a lot of it yourself, of course, but everyone receives some sort of help. So I think it's important to thank those people, acknowledge them, and then make a promise to keep them up to date on where you are in law school and how things are progressing for you. The law is a relationship-based profession, and you will hear that over and over again from us on campus. So take the time to write some notes and say thank you. I see we have a couple of questions coming up, so I will begin asking those and I'll get to some of these as well. One question is, I'm nervous about the demands of law school. How can I make sure that I keep up? And Professor Minneti, let's start with you in talking about academic success.
Yeah, so I love the question. A lot of law school is about reading comprehension, as I said before, but it's also about time management. So one of the things you'll hear our office talk about is coming up with an academic calendar that sets boundaries for the time that you can commit to law school and that is very specific. We have a bit of a prescription for you where if you spend the 55 to 60 hours in the way that we suggest, you're going to be very well prepared, not just for class on a daily basis, but for exams when they happen. I'll tell you that the students that treat law school as a full-time job, plus a little bit more, are the students that are frankly most successful. It's not just about the LSAT score and the undergraduate GPA you come in with. It's also about the way that you approach the education scheme, the way that you approach the day-to-day piece of it. So to the extent that your nervousness is about the uncertainties associated with the expectations that are going to be on you and that kind of demanding schedule that you're going to be confronted with, know that every student in your class is confronting the same set of issues. Know that if you listen to the information that will provide the orientation, we will help you get a clearer sense of the expectations that will be upon yourself. And if you then take that information, sit down with an academic planner, and plan out for yourself what makes the most sense in terms of a study and class schedule for you, you're going to find that a lot of that anxiety dissolves a great deal. I think the other piece of this goes back to something that Mike said earlier, and that's when he was encouraging you to essentially establish a vision for yourself as a lawyer for why you want to do this. I would take that a step maybe more closer to home and say, as a law student, who do you envision yourself as? What are your priorities going to be? And if I could take a moment more to address this specific point, when I came to law school, I already mentioned that I did so in a non-traditional way. I was already married and had 2 young children. Part of my summer before law school was deciding where exactly school was going to fall in my scheme of priorities. And I chose to put family first, specifically children first. That meant that I wasn't going to be doing the same study schedule as my colleagues that didn't have the responsibilities of childcare. I'm good with that. And it may have affected how I performed in law school. Maybe so, I don't know. But what I can say is that I took a deliberate strategic approach to prioritizing what was important to me about that first semester in school, having spent my time consistent with what was important to me, alleviated a lot of the anxiety that I otherwise might have faced if I was trying to serve 2 or 3 different masters at one time. I hope that makes sense.
I think it does. And one of the things that we talk about in bar preparation, career development, academic success is self-assessment. And I think understanding how you're going to perform best, aligning your priorities, I think those are the things that sort of help set you up for success. And you'll hear in some of the pre-orientation materials a little bit more about some of these self-assessment tools that we have on campus, and we encourage you to take advantage of those. I see some more questions popping up, so I'm gonna turn right to you all. One person says, I've seen some Kaplan courses advertised that offer to prepare you for law school. Do you recommend these? Are they helpful to us to do well in law school classes? So commercial preparation programs before law school. What are your thoughts?
I think they can be helpful, but I don't think that they're essential. One of the beauties of the law is that we don't prescribe a specific discipline, say for pre-med might, or in some business professional programs might. Instead, we're looking at a very broad-based background. So what you've done as an undergraduate student or in a previous graduate program has already given you many of the skills and abilities you need to be successful here. The programs, many of them are quite good. I think you'll find that our orientation and pre-orientation materials replicate much of their programming. So what I would encourage you to do is once you start seeing the kind of pre-orientation and orientation plan we have for you, look at that first and figure out what that's going to give you, and then decide maybe if the commercial sources have anything more to contribute. If you're an exceedingly non-traditional student, if you're coming at this after being out of school for decades, or if you have very significant demands on your schedule, or if you're just uncertain about the nature of law altogether, right? Those might be the kind of students that would be advantaged by both our orientation program and one of those commercial sources. I gotta say though, that I do not see participation in any of those programs as being dispositive of success in law school. It's just not that kind of variable that affects success.
I think it goes back again to that self-assessment and figuring out how this is all gonna fit within your personal strengths.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
So, though I'm not going to say don't do one of those programs, I can speak a little bit to the expense of them. I mean, if you can invest and you see that you've done your research and you see that it will provide a return to you, explore it a little bit more. But understand that the skill of being successful in law school has to be learned in some context area. So like Professor Minneti said, you're going to learn a lot in orientation about how to do this well. And then you're going to start getting to know your professors. You're going to start learning substantive rules about contracts and real property. And you'll actually have a frame of reference for applying those legal skills. How to read critically, how to create an outline. Those types of things that the Kaplan and other commercial courses are going to teach you won't make a ton of sense unless you have that substantive context. So I would encourage you, come here, take advantage of the resources that are available to you. I have the opportunity to work with some really cool people, so we're here for you to help you however we can. I don't think you'll be behind the 8 ball by not doing one of those programs.
And that would go for any commercial programs, right? I know there's a couple on the market right now, so I think would your advice be the same for any of those?
I think it would. And you'll see with our pre-orientation materials, we'll provide a list of those providers just so you can see that they're, who they are, that they're out there. But don't consider that an endorsement necessarily of them or a recommendation that you should participate in their programming.
one question I want to go back to a little bit, because there's a couple of questions about applying for the Florida bar while you're in law school. So to recap, when you come into law school as a first year, what should you do in order to prepare for the Florida bar application?
Right. So on the floridabarexam.org website, there's going to be a checklist of information. If you click the link that says application checklists on the left side of that page, it'll give you a bunch of options. You want to explore registering as a first-year student, and then a whole checklist of information comes up. Most of the information they want about you is demographic. They want to know who you are, where you've lived, where you've gone to school, the type of life that you've led leading up until this point. So start going through that information and understand what they're going to be asking you for. If you open that application and start looking through some of the questions, it'll give you a better idea of the type of information you need to get. Old speeding tickets, transcripts from undergrad institutions, things like that, they're going to want to see. So those are the types of things you can do for the application. Now that's registering as a student, right? That just starts that background check. That doesn't necessarily signal to the bar that you're ready to sit for the exam. That we take care of later in your third year or in your fourth year if you're a part-time student, right? So this is just an initial step. Let's just get the background check started and out of the way early. So that's the only thing we want you to start thinking about as a student in your first couple of weeks or months here.
If I can add just one point.
Please.
So the bar is curious about whether you have the character and fitness necessary to be a member of the bar, and that's part of that background check, the demographic check that the bar is interested in doing. So it is about gathering the documentation. It's about being attentive to that. I think that there's a financial incentive as well for applying as a first-year student. So as you look through the materials, I think it's pretty substantial. It not only serves your interests professionally, but personally, you may be well served by getting that application process started just as soon as you can.
And we recommend that 1Ls file that application around January of your first year. And so you'll hear much more about that once we start classes. So back to the questions. Do you have a mentorship program between upperclassmen and incoming first-year students? I could take that one. I love this program. Yes, we do. Our student ambassadors are an amazing resource on campus, and if you have not already, you will get to know some of these wonderful student leaders on campus. And once you come in for orientation, you'll be sort of paired off in groups, and you will have an ambassador who will be sort of that first point of contact that you can reach out to if you have questions about a particular professor or a particular class or some study suggestions. The ambassadors are a fantastic group of folks, and you will meet them at orientation, if not before. And I encourage you to get to know your ambassadors, utilize them as a resource. They're a wonderful group of folks, and I know that they look forward to meeting you as well. But yes, there's a formal mentorship program, and you'll learn a lot more about that once we get you onto campus. All right, back to the questions. Are there any specific Stetson classes that we should take to best prepare us for upperclassmen classes? Also, what about classes for the bar exam? When should we take them? First year, second year, third year? So let's talk a little bit about the first year schedule and go from there.
So your first year is pretty much scheduled for you. Your first 2 semesters are registered for you. You have nothing to worry about. You don't have to register for any of those classes. There's a set curriculum, and you can find that through the Stetson website. It'll talk about which semester you'll take which courses. Those do great things to prepare you for all of our upper level classes. As you start to think about which bar exam you want to take, whether it's Florida or some other state, different states test different things. And so you're going to want to get exposure to a couple of different substantive areas depending on the exam you want to sit for. Our expertise here is the Florida bar exam, because I anticipate everyone comes to Florida and wants to stay here. It's such a nice place. So we get you ready and talk to you about what types of courses you want exposure to early in order so that you're not teaching yourself that substantive material right before your exam. Professor Minneti, do you have any other insight on that first year curriculum?
I want to really build off the last phrase that you just used, and that is part of what law school is designed to teach you is how you learn the law best. Because you will be a lifelong learner as a lawyer. The law changes. It does not remain static, right? So A big part of this process is simply helping you learn how you learn the law, which means that you do not need to take a class in every single topic tested by a state's bar exam. Instead, what you need to be attentive to are the patterns in the law and the way that you best learn those patterns. Because then when you get into the post-graduation bar prep program and are partnered with Mike in his office, you will be able to really set out on a course that helps you learn the material you need to know for the exam. There are a couple of courses that we recommend all students take, both for upper level purposes and also for the bar exam. And I'll point them out now, but you're going to hear them again. The big three for us are Trust and Estates, a course that I just taught earlier today, and I'm intimately familiar with. I love the subject matter. Trust and Estates is a big one. It's tested by most bar exams. Business Entities or Corporations is a second, but very important course. And then finally, something in the commercial law arena, commercial transactions, secure transaction sales. Those types of courses really dig into the fundamental patterns in the law that you'll see across all topics. And if you can master those and learn how to do that, you can transfer that skill set to learning other areas of law as well. I would also point to, Stetson has a number of courses that are directly related to bar preparation that you can explore once you get into your last year of law school. Those courses include multi-state strategies and survey of Florida law.
Absolutely. You will be well prepared. One of the questions we had was, are the first year courses set? And I'll just answer that real quickly. Yes, your first year course schedule will be set. You will receive your schedule right before orientation, shortly before there, and that will outline the days and times that you will have class as a first year student. And that will go for the full-time and the part-time program.
Yeah, if I could just add one piece to that, and that is that for the second semester of legal research and writing, you actually will have a choice in the section you choose to be a part of. Many of our research and writing professors have expertise in specific legal topics and will offer a legal writing 2 course dedicated to that area of expertise. So you will have some choice in your RNW 2 course as the RNW2 curriculum course as you move through through the required curriculum. I'll stop there.
I love that, and I think that's a great way to learn research and writing. If you can sort of pick a topic that's really interesting to you, it's a great way to sort of build a writing sample for applications. I think it's a wonderful offering that we have here at Stetson. Back to the questions. Let's talk a little bit about orientation. What can students expect about orientation? How many days? When is it?
What we've done in the past is this. We provide a pre-orientation program that organizes material around 3 different steps. The first step provides general law school inculturation kinds of information. You'll hear some workshop presentations about critical reading and outlining some of the basic skills associated with law school. Step 2 gets you a little bit more acquainted with the law school policies that are going to impact you when you arrive on campus later in August. And then step 3 provides resources that are very much dedicated to the on-campus portion of orientation. Through the pre-orientation electronic offerings, though, you're going to get a variety of lots of information and lots of skill set development that'll be helpful in the first semester of law school. On-campus orientation is typically just one day. You'll attend a mock class, you'll participate in a variety of programming that day to help you begin to learn more about the professors that you'll be working with. You'll begin to meet your colleagues and some of the other staff that will be here at the College of Law to help you. The on-campus day will be the day when you get to meet with the ambassador that you described a moment ago. And that is a day more about advancing themes associated with law school success than it is providing specific nuts and bolts information that's essential to law school success.
Thank you. We're going to take just a short break, but we're going to be right back with you to answer some more of your questions. We'll be back in just a moment. Way there.
My best experience at Stetson so far has been interacting with students and getting to know their passions for law.
The best part of Stetson thus far for me has been my trial advocacy class. My professor taught me skills that will last the rest of my life.
The thing I've enjoyed most about my Stetson experience was the first year student opening statement competition. I mean, it was my first time being in the courtroom and advocating, and the best part for me was that I was able to do it in front of my parents who came down all the way from Buffalo. That opportunity opened countless number of doors after that.
The thing that I've enjoyed the most about my experience at Stetson is the professors. They have clearly excelled in their expertise outside of academia, but they deliver their experiences into the classroom so personally. They are true servant scholars.
My favorite experience has been traveling with the Stetson trial team and also training with the trial team. I feel like I have learned an enormous amount just by being a member of the Stetson trial team.
One of my favorite experiences at Stetson has been becoming a Stetson ambassador and welcoming visitors to the campus.
I've really enjoyed my pro bono experience here at Stetson. I got to work with the Salvation Army and do resume workshops for people who are re-entering the workforce.
So far at Stetson, I've really enjoyed the classroom experience as well as the different advocacy competitions.
I've really enjoyed being a member of Moot Court Board since I've been at Stetson. It's really fun to work on briefs with team members and then go compete in oral arguments.
My favorite experience here at Stetson has been the opportunity to get involved with student organizations on campus, such as Phi Alpha Delta and the Environmental Law Society.
One of my favorite things about Stetson has been the opportunity to be able to intern and clerk outside of my formal legal education.
Stetson is all about a community and the collaboration. Faculty, staff, fellow students, and alumni all work together to help you to achieve success.
I really enjoyed taking part in the appellant advocacy competition, which allowed me to gain some real-life courtroom experience.
My favorite experience at Stetson has been the Moot Court program. Practicing real-world advocacy skills, you can't really get that experience anywhere else.
Stetson is the oldest law school in Florida, and the campus is really beautiful.
And welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that video highlighting some of our amazing students on campus. Now we're going to spend some time talking about more specifically the 1L course schedule for full-time students and the 1L course schedule for part-time students. And Professor Minneti, let's start with you. Let's give a little bit of an overview of what students can expect for classes, time spent preparing for classes, and that sort of commitment.
So we'll begin with the part-timers. The part-time curriculum is going to include 2 substantive courses during your first fall semester. Those are contracts and tort. Each course is a 4 credit hour course, which means the course itself will meet for 4 hours across the week. Now with respect to part-timers, you'll meet some of the time here in Gulfport and then some of the time at the Tampa Law Center. So your time will be divided between those 2 campuses. Earlier, you heard me speak about a time commitment to studying law school, and I mentioned about 55 to 60 hours. For the part-time students, that is not a necessary threshold because you're taking fewer courses than the full-timers. Instead, here's the way I would think about it. Think about treating each of your courses throughout law school as clients. Think about from the part-time perspective, you've got 2 clients. You've got a client in tort, you've got a client in contract. For each of those clients, I want you to think about spending 15 hours. To put it in the terms of a lawyer speak, you're going to bill that client 15 hours a week. Now, 4 of those hours are going to be spent in class. So we'll deduct that from the 15, leaving us with right around 11. What I want you to think about is spending about 4 hours before each 2-hour class preparing for class. During that pre-class 4 hours, you'll be reading the prescribed reading, anticipating professors' questions about that reading, and preparing yourself by exploring the information, reflecting on the information prior to class. Typically, professors will prescribe 20 to 30 pages of casebook reading, and so part of the pre-class piece is going to be driven by just how quickly you're able to read through materials. So, with respect to the part-timers, you're thinking about 4 hours before each 2-hour class. That adds a total of 8 hours and brings our total to about 12 for the week for 1 class. The additional 3 hours I would spend following the 2 class meetings for that week. What I want you to do there is spend time reflecting on the material, cleaning up your class notes, having conversations with classmates about the material, and then thinking through whether you have any questions for the professors. So that for the part-time students, you're looking at something like a 30-hour commitment to law school, which includes the time spent in those 2 courses. For full-time students, you'll be taking 4 credit courses. So you'll be spending a total of 16 hours a week sitting in class. Typically, those courses are spread across 2 days each. So you'll have 2 class meetings for each of the 4 classes across a week. Now I say typically because many research and writing sections also have an additional laboratory component where you'll meet in a small group of students and engage in research projects, sometimes here in the library, and other times on the computer doing work for yourself. So with the full-time students, I want you to think about the same sort of 15-hour commitment. There, it's 15 hours for each of your 4 clients. And those clients for the full-time students include criminal law, contracts, civil procedure, and research and writing. Those will be the 4 clients that you'll be serving during that first semester. If you take this approach from the very beginning of courses and stay with it throughout, you're going to find yourself in an exceedingly strong position come exams, because you'll have processed the information in a paced, thoughtful way so that you don't have to worry about cramming for exam in any way, shape, or form. What have I missed? Have I covered the basics there with respect to the schedule?
For sure. I think that the most interesting piece of that for you all was to hear 50 to 60 hours for your full-time students. If you're coming straight from an undergrad degree program where you've been able to complete an assignment in one sitting, that's going to be the biggest change, I think, in these types of assignments. So you will have robust discussion in class. You're going to have a legal expert teaching you the rules and the different way to reason through legal analysis. And then you're going to be on your own. And like Professor Minneti said, you've got about 11 hours to handle that material outside of that one class period. So get used to touching the material at a couple of different sittings throughout the week. I would not approach every homework assignment or out of class assignment as if you're going to sit down and get it done in that 4-hour block, right? You want to give yourself enough time and pace yourself throughout the week, or else you'll feel yourself falling behind a little bit, I think. So going back to a point that Professor Minneti made earlier, is just sitting down with one of those academic calendars, meeting with an advisor or a mentor here on campus, someone who can walk you through what your week really looks like. Block it out for yourself. Get ahead of the work so that you can maintain it throughout the semester.
I agree. I think, again, it's important about knowing yourself, knowing how you work best. One of my colleagues talks about Picasso time, right? Mm-hmm. Some of you may function very, very well in the mornings. Others, maybe not so much. So figuring out what times work best for you and building your study schedule around that so that you're the most productive when you need to be very focused is always a really good way to help maximize your time, because your discretionary time and how you spend your discretionary time in law school will be very, very important, not just for academics, but for career development, for extracurricular activities, and experiential learning opportunities, clinics and internships. But yes, please.
I was going to jump back to something that you had said, something that Mike had said. But part of class prep for law school requires an understanding of the goals of class itself. If you've attended classes as an undergraduate where the professors largely stood and delivered the information to you in incremental bits and bytes so that you could better understand it, don't expect that to be the way the law school classroom runs. Instead, as Mike said, it's much more discussion driven. Professors don't see it as their primary purpose to teach you the law. Instead, they want to facilitate your discovery, your understanding of that through conversation with you about that. They're going to expect that prior to entering the classroom, you've read the materials, you've understood them to the best of your ability, put in a good faith effort to prepare. And then when you enter that arena of the classroom, it's really about pressing the boundaries of that understanding, helping you understand the law from different perspectives by hearing from the professor and classmates as they talk about what they understand to be true about it. So it's much more of an organic process. It's much less of simply, let's take a rule, break it down, and internalize that during class. That's just not what happens.
Wonderful. One of the things one of the questions we had were touching on student organizations. So I want to take a moment to sort of talk about student organizations. On campus, we have, I don't even know how many we have now, 50? Maybe that's about right, yeah. Right? No one quote me out there. But we have a number of student organizations for all sorts of interests on campus. We have student organizations. We have this for specific practice areas. If you're really interested in criminal law, we have student organizations. If you're really interested in business, healthcare, immigration, you name it, there's a student organization. And we have affinity student organizations. So we have organizations like the Florida Association for Women Lawyers. We have the Black Law Student Association, Asian American Law Student Association, a number of different affinity student organizations. And we also have student organizations, as one question came in, specifically for students with parents. The Stetson Parent Organization. something like that. Wonderful. But that organization is designed to be a support system for people like Professor Minneti, who were coming to school with a lot of different priorities, specifically being a parent. And I think you'll find that organization to be incredibly supportive, a good resource, a good sounding board, and they actually have a lot of fun. They do a lot of great events. So I would encourage all of you to think strategically about getting involved with student organizations. They can be a great, not only a great point on your resume, but a great place to meet your classmates, to develop some really critical relationships on campus. So we encourage you to learn more about them. They're on the website. You can find them very easily. One of the other questions we had, which I like, and Mike, we'll start with you, dress code. What is the dress code for class? Do students walk around in suits all day, or are they walking around in flip-flops?
Yeah,
what do we see?
I missed the memo my first year. I actually thought it was formal, so I showed up to my first class, dressed to kill. There is no, I guess, set dress code. There's a sense of decency about what to wear. What I would tell you is wear something that will help you be taken seriously. For me, I know that even if I'm just going to the library to study, I have to be put together. Like I need to take it seriously. I need to take the day seriously and the task at hand. So I would encourage you that if you roll into class in pajamas, you are going to be looked at like someone in pajamas. Whereas if you come to class and you're put together and you take it seriously and put your best foot forward, that is kind of the unspoken code. I don't know, does anyone else have?
Yeah, I would add to that a couple of things. First, your professors may prescribe a dress code, even though there's not one for the College of Law formally. I've heard professors say, I don't want hats in the classroom. I want to be able to see your eyes. So wear your hat outside, but when you get in here, that comes off. So be considerate of your professor's expectations. And the other thing I would say is that, Stetson is not just a continuation of an undergraduate study. You're entering professional school, right? You're getting yourself ready to enter a profession that has significant status, prestige associated with it. So begin to look that part. It's never too soon for that. I love that Mike came dressed to kill. I don't think that's a problem. Seriously, I don't think that's a problem at all, because it shows that you're in transition and you appreciate the significance of that transition. It is Florida. You're going to see a bit of a relaxed attitude here. And I would just caution you a little bit there, because sometimes the way you dress reflects the way that you think and the approach that you bring to the material. This is a professional school. We are preparing you to enter the practice of law. And we take that very seriously. Your professors are committed to your success. They appreciate the value of the contributions that you can make as a lawyer if you're well prepared to do so. So we take our obligation seriously, and we want you to as well.
And one of the things that I'll add is that a lot of some of the more fun classes that you're going to take are skills-based courses here on campus. It's sort of what we're known for, and we're really proud of our skills-based programming and classwork. And some of those classes will require you to wear a suit. Some of your experiential learning opportunities, where you go and for academic credit have internships or clinical opportunities, those may require a certain dress code, a suit perhaps. One of the things that we'll recommend, things that you should be thinking about doing before you come to law school, is invest in a suit or two. It doesn't need to be expensive, but it does need to fit well. So invest in going and getting yourself a suit, going to a tailor, getting it professionally fitted. You'll be wearing a suit for orientation. There will be opportunities when, for example, when we bring employers on campus to interview our students, those opportunities call for suits. So it is good if someone's going to offer you a present for graduation, ask to get yourself a new suit and invest in that. It doesn't need to be extreme or extravagant, but I think it will serve you well here in law school. One of the other questions we had, and I love this question, it's always a fun one. Can you please talk about the Socratic method? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about it. What should law students be thinking about when it comes to the Socratic method, and maybe some of the myths?
Sure. So the days of Kingsfield and paper chase and 1L are long past. Stetson's never been about that. Our professors are really committed to helping you become the best lawyers that you can be. Now, that said, I go back to what I said earlier about the goals of the law school classroom. It's not just about a lecture and breaking material down into bits and bytes for you to then take on and digest for yourself. Instead, it is very much about a conversation. Now, to the extent that's Socratic in nature, what that says is that the professor will ask the class or specific individuals questions about the material, where the professor has an idea of what the answer should be or could be, and leads the students toward that intended goal, that intended answer. Sometimes there's no right answer. Sometimes there is, but it is about the conversation, and the goal of the conversation is to help you learn to act and think like a lawyer on your feet. Now, I'll say that some professors cold call, and what that means is that you never know from one day to the next whether or not you're going to be called upon to answer a question. That's the way I do my courses. Students just don't know if they're going to get called on, and I call on students frequently to contribute to class conversations. Other professors will take volunteers, and they'll never call on a student unless that student raises a hand. Still others will have a bit of a scheme where you'll be on call for a period of a week or a couple of class meetings, and so you'll know that you may be called on during class. So there's lots of different ways that it gets done here. What I think I would do if I was you is set aside any concern about professors seeking to embarrass or humiliate you.
Right.
That is never what it's about. Now, at the same time, if you are not prepared for class, and I realize life happens, right? All of your professors will set up a scheme for you to let the professor know that prior to the start of class. The position you do not want to be in is to get called upon without having notified and not be prepared, and have the professor not know that you're not prepared. So whatever scheme the professor has in place for notifying him or her of your failure to be able to be prepared for class, make sure that you follow that very carefully so that you don't put yourself in the position of wasting your classmates' time by exposing the fact that you really haven't prepared the way you should have. Missed anything, guys?
No, I mean, the only thing I would add there is that your professors are experts in the law. Most of them, I would say all of them, are attorneys or have been. And so think about talking with attorneys about the law. They are used to leading witnesses and a jury or the judge through the hoops of legal arguments, and they're going to get you to jump through those same types of hoops through your own legal analysis. So if the Socratic method is a weird way to put it, because you haven't read Plato or you just never really thought about it too much, think about your professors as attorneys, because it's a cool way to think about being led through, either examined or cross-examined through some of the cases you've read.
And I think I'll speak for both Mike and I. We were both students here, and I think exactly what Professor Minneti said. No professor is going to try to humiliate you. There's never any ill intention. The intention is to teach you and to walk you through the process and to get you accustomed to answering difficult questions. And so being prepared is your best defense. I'm going to turn. We have a couple of more questions coming in about how many students per class roughly.
It's going to vary. Generally, your substantive courses for the first semester, be criminal law, civil procedure, and such, the ones I described earlier, are going to be sections between 70 and 85 students each, depending upon a variety of factors. Research and writing is, though, typically a smaller class, composed of roughly 30 to 35 individuals in each section. So you could think about 3 primary full-time sections that will meet in the same set of 4 classes for full-time students across the semester, each section having the same professors for those substantive courses, and then each section divided into 2 or 3 smaller research and writing sections. For the part-time students, I think you're treated as a single section, and I think there's probably going to be 35 or 40 of you in that section, and you'll stay together as a group throughout the required curriculum.
And your specific class schedule will be released soon, but I think most students should expect in the full-time program that they're in class roughly 4 to 5 days a week, depending on your semester and depending on your schedule. And that could vary. Sometimes those are just morning classes, sometimes they're just afternoons, sometimes they're a combination. Your first year schedule will be set and sent to you, and then afterwards you can build your schedule around internships or, leading to the next question, jobs. So I want to spend some time talking a little bit about jobs. My favorite topic, of course. And the question reads, I know many people advise against holding a job during your first year, but do students tend to have a job during their second or third year? And I'm going to start with the second question, and we'll talk about first year, and I'll let Professor Minneti talk about the work restrictions on first years. But the answer is yes, a lot of students do have jobs their second and third year. One of the most important things that you can plan for while you're in law school school are your summers. Your summers are very important, and how you spend your summers needs to be thoughtful, intentional, and planned out. And I'll speak to the full-time program, and then I'll speak to the part-time program. So for the full-time program, we do expect your summers to be spent building experiences that are going to get you to your first job after law school. Your second summer, traditionally, those are paid experiences, but not always so, depending on what sort of experience is best for you. Your first summer, there's a number of different options, and when you come here to Stetson, we will help you develop a strategy for utilizing your summers. Oftentimes, though, students in their second and third year will be working part-time. Oftentimes that's within a law firm. Sometimes it's within a government organization. But there are a number of different opportunities, and our office specifically works with students and posts those opportunities. We bring employers to you. We help you introduce yourself to employers, and we do a lot of connecting. And so employment is something that we will work very closely with you on, and it helps springboard you into the job after law school. For part-time students, many of you have full-time jobs already, and so you will be working your first, second, and third year. But we will work closely with our part-time students as well, who may be thinking about transitioning careers, building on the career that they already have, or figuring out an entirely new plan for what it is that you want to do and why you're coming to law school. So the Career Development Office will be a great resource for you, as will other departments on campus. Now, Professor Minneti, can you talk about the restrictions on working as a 1L?
Sure. So my first statement would be, if you don't have to work, don't. Not as a first-year student. There are simply too many things that you're going to have to adjust to. The rigors of that first year are so extraordinary that I really prefer you made law school your single professional requirement of yourself that first year. If you decide that you want to work, College of Law policies have recently changed and permitted you to work up to 20 hours a week as a full-time student. Now, you're going to need to let the Office of Student Life know about that. They want to be aware of the fact that you're committing some of your time to some sort of professional thing outside of the study of law. If after the first semester you struggle some academically and fall within the bottom 10% of the class, you would be considered a further required curriculum student. This is one of the policies I referred to some time ago that supports students who are struggling some academically. If you're among that group of students, the College of Law may preclude you from working during that second semester and perhaps in subsequent semesters. Doing so is designed to serve your best interests. We want to protect your time so that the priority, the focus of your time can be on that law school environment that you've placed yourself in.
And we probably have time for about one or two questions, but I do want to add something to what Professor Minneti said. I think financially preparing for law school is a really important thing that you all can begin doing now. Setting yourself a budget. If you don't have to work your first year, financially, right, you have to be able to prepare for that. And so thinking about what you can do now to set yourself up for a good budget while you're in law school, because this is a significant investment financially, time-wise, you're giving a lot of yourself to this experience. And so managing your finances now is a very important thing that we would encourage you to do. There are a number of resources out there. I think if you have questions about our financial aid department, please feel free to contact them and talk to them about those specific issues. But building a budget is a really important thing that you can do to set yourself up for a long and fruitful career.
I will jump in just really quick. When it comes to the bar exam, I want to echo what Professor Minneti said. If you don't have to work, don't. Right? And so touching on what Joann had said about building a budget, if you get into some good habits, developing a money buckets and just having different things that make priorities for you financially, start early. Start socking away some cash so that you can actually take the time after you graduate to focus on the bar exam as your last hurdle into the profession. So I'm glad to raise that with you now because you have plenty of time to plan. The last thing you want to have happen is you're in your final year of law school and you haven't had the opportunity to plan financially, and then you're forced to work and study. If you can create a situation for yourself where you can just focus on the bar, you're going to be in good shape. So that's my 2 cents there.
And then the last question we have, at what point do we need to choose an area of law to focus on? And I think that's a really interesting question. I think many of you probably who are watching may not know exactly what it is that you want to do with your law degree. That's okay. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my law degree either, and I don't know that any of our other guests really did either. The law school experience will provide you a little bit of time to explore, right? But at some point, we're going to be asking you to make some decisions. You don't have to know now what area of law you want to focus on, and at no point do we really ask you to sort of declare a major as you would in undergrad or declare a specialty. Oftentimes, those things are fluid and they sort of change as opportunities present themselves. But if you are questioning a couple of areas of law, if you may be interested in criminal law, or maybe bankruptcy is interesting you, while you're waiting to come to law school, I think all of us would encourage you to sort of explore those opportunities. Go sit on a criminal jury trial. Go talk to a judge. Go talk to lawyers who do what it is that you may find interesting, and try to get a little bit more information about what that practice area might look like. There's time in law school to develop those relationships as well, but now while you're getting ready, now's a perfect time to reach out to lawyers and judges and ask them for their advice as you begin law school. I think you'll find a lot of people in the legal community are more than willing to share those sort of advice and tips for you as you begin your journey into law school. That's about all the time we have for today. Does anyone else have any final thoughts before we close?
I just want to underscore some things Joann has said about the work that her office does, and just what this thing that we've done together. It demonstrates how offices at Stetson collaborate to really help you accomplish personal and professional success. Joann and the career development team are amazing in the work that they do. They get to know you as people, they help you get to know yourself as a person, and then they help you set out a course that will enable you to accomplish your professional goals. By the same token, the Academic Success Bar Prep team exists solely for the purpose of helping you be successful in law school and on that bar exam. Please continue to take advantages of the great resources that we have provided for you here at the College of Law.
And with that, we will close our webinar, and thank you all so much for joining us. I know I speak for all of us when I say we can't wait to see you in the fall. If you need anything, we're here. Please keep in touch. Take care. Have a wonderful afternoon.